one thing that you see here where I put under run your credit and background checks, you'll request a voucher size and a subsidy estimation from the applicant. And they usually have all of this in that same packet. It's usually with the RTA. So that's not usually something that you'll have to chase down or request. It's all together. So the voucher size, that is what every Section 8 participant has. Every single one of them. That tells them and it tells you as a property owner what they are approved for based on their household size. So the basic calculation is usually every 2 people grants 1 bedroom on the voucher. So if it were me and my daughter, let's say, or me and my son or whatever, we would have a 1 bedroom voucher. And that 1 bedroom voucher has a payment standard attached to it. And the payment standard tells them, and again, it tells me as a property owner, what is the maximum that they can go up to in rent per month for a unit. That varies between housing authority to housing authority. That's not something that's standard, but I will show an example. I will show an example of what that looks like. I'm going to put that in the chat. So this is LACDA or LA County Housing Authority. This is their payment standard list. So it shows everything from 0 to 5, and then it shows you what the amounts are for that. This changes. Okay, so I see the link isn't working. I may have cut off a letter when I pasted it. I'll put it back in there in just a second. So what you'll do here is if you see your tenant, your applicant, they only have a 1 bedroom voucher and you have a 4 bedroom house, there's a pretty good possibility that they won't be able to afford. So it weeds out people in the application process. If you do have a 1 bedroom or you have a 2 bedroom, sometimes the 2 bedrooms are still within the affordability of a 1 bedroom payment standard, which is great. You've decided all that is good. The subsidy estimation, what that does is that tells you as a property owner the amount that is built in to the payment that covers utility costs. So water, plumbing, and electricity, or water and electricity, excuse me. Oh, it looks like that website is down. All right, I'm going to pull another one so we at least have an example. Give me just a second. Okay, so that one in there is working. The other, it looks like the other website is down. So the subsidy estimation, this confuses owners, so I'm going to touch on this really quickly. This amount that you see when they hand you the subsidy estimation, it'll look similar to the payment standard. So it'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 bedroom voucher. That amount that they allocate is already built into the payment standard. So what that tells you is if you as the property owner, you decide to pay for the water while the renter is there, this amount, X amount, depending on their voucher size, will be paid to you. The only reason I mention that, I don't really want to get too far into it because it's kind of confusing. It's all over the place. And to be honest, it's not structured very well. When you see that subsidy estimation, that is not an additional amount on top of the payment standard that you as a property owner get for providing any of those utilities. So I just want to make that clarification. It is something that most owners do, as with any tenant, assisted or not. If, like, let's say the water bill is not paid, it gets shut off, the tenant moves out, you as the property owner are responsible to pay that. You can go after them in small claims court, but the only way to get that water back on is for you to pay it. So a lot of times the owners choose to keep it in their name, or their company's name, and get that little bit extra inside of the payment standard for making those utility payments. The last part of this process before the tenant has moved in is rent determination. There is a misconception that if you have a unit that's worth $2,500 a month and you charge the full $2,500 a month, that you are gouging the tenant and that you're being a terrible landlord, you're taking advantage of the person and the program. That is false, and I'll tell you why. So every person on the program, when they move into a new unit, they're capped at either 30 or 40% of their monthly income. That affordability is already factored in to what their payment will be and the amount that you're getting. Affordability is taken care of solely by the housing authority. That's not something that you as a property owner have to worry about. So that takes something off your plate. Do not exceed, like, let's say that $2,500, if 60% of their income would have been a payment, the housing authority won't let them move in because they'll say this is not affordable for your income, or if you have no income, whatever the case is. But all that's figured out at the beginning, so you don't have to worry about that. If your unit, your market rent is 2,500, charge 2,500. If not, you're leaving money on the table. And again, it's not something that is going to cause issues with affordability for the tenant. When we touch on rent increases here in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll touch on affordability because that is something you need to consider then. But on the initial move-in, charge whatever your market rent is, whatever your comparables are. A lot of people use rentometer or rentometer. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. I say rentometer. Let me put that's a really popular one that that people like to use. You can use that website for quite a few different things, not just comparables. So that's a good one to have in your back pocket. But once you've run your comparables, you give that to the housing authority. And as Frank mentioned, if you're above what the market rent is, they'll say you're asking 2,500, but the highest market rent is 2,440. That's as much as we'll pay. If that's the case, then that's what it is. They're not going to let you gouge tenants and blow market rents through the water by, in essence, creating your own comparisons. So again, you don't have to worry about the affordability on the move-in, but you do have to make sure that your figures are right. Perfect. So we just touched that. And we're a little bit before halfway, but we've covered quite a bit already. So let me take a pause here. I'm going to bring up our Q&A box. I appreciate you all putting those questions in here. All right, so it was asked, what is an RTA? That stands for Request for Tenancy Approval. I put the link in the chat a little further up. I'll put it in again, just in case. So this RTA is the application that the tenant or the Section 8 participant gives to the property owner wherever they're trying to rent. So in this case, plan goes well and everybody takes action and they decide this is what they want to do. That would be you. You'd be getting this form, the RTA. Let's see. It was asked, how do you determine your rent amounts for Section 8? Do you use fair market value provided by HUD? So HUD doesn't necessarily make that determination. Like I just mentioned in a few minutes ago, they use fair market rents from a few different websites. The most accurate that you can find is Rentometer, and I say it's most accurate because it's one of the most widely used, meaning they have the most data to give you that feedback. So that's a really great one to use. It's not going to be to the penny. And I say that because the system that the Section 8 case managers use, numbers that it pulls from changes like twice a day. I'm going to say maybe even 3 times a day. So it's constantly, it's like a revolving door of statistics and numbers for comparables. So if you pull something on Rentometer and it says your fair market rent is 2,400, when the case manager pulls it, it may say 2,370. So that it may not, it won't be to the penny, but you'll be really, really close, and it'll give you an excellent idea of what you should ask for as you're asking rent.